You are now listening to Sir Inq's The Experience Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything kink. Now, this podcast is only catered to those that are 18 and above and may not be suitable for work, or as we like to say, NSF. But remember, you can always listen to us during your private time. Hello, kinky and kinkers folk out there. My name is Sir Inq.
What's good, everybody? Let me jump right into my topic, which is a review of the male perspective online. And it's just the conversations that everyone's privy to right now, but it's been conversations that men have been having privately and in barbershops and all other places that men get together and can be themselves. These are common threads, these are common conversations. And from that the internet has spawned, now that everyone can record and get online and be a superstar and be a star and all that, it has spawned a wave of not only the conversation, the truthful conversations that men would like to have and ways men would like to be understood. But of course, it's the internet and we're more attracted to the extremes, right? And so you have people out there that are on the extreme ends of, rejecting women, just as well as you have female content creators that are extreme F men altogether, right? And so for the sake of this conversation for men, just let's give it a good down the middle. I'm going to give it a good down the middle observation and I'm going to tell you where I think we are and where we need to go. So the common thread from this updated male perspective is be decisive, be determined, be selective with those close to you, stay on your money, and move with intent. Those are the very good tenets that they're preaching. And I agree with those things 100%. 100%. Because as a man, I think that's how you need to be. Of course, when you're younger, you're anything but some of these things, right? But as you get more mature, you've lived some life, you understand the path to success. The paths, let me say that, there's multiple paths to success is having a plan, having a focus, being decisive, being determined, and understanding that the circle around you is so important. Those, when I say your circle, I mean those who you hold close to you. For example, I am a barber, own a barbershop. I've been in the man's world of grooming since I was in high school, long time. And so I have a lot of people that I consider friends, but I don't necessarily consider them to be close friends. A lot of people I've met, just through the barbershop. Some have become lifelong friends, very close to me. And there are other people that I went to school with that were close friends that are now not close friends. So as you grow as a person, it's all about commonality and running with those who are running in the direction that you're running in. And that having a friend that is no longer running the same way doesn't mean you have to end a friendship. It just means we're not running together at the same, we're not running in the same places. So now we're not walking on the same street in life. But we do have times and spaces and places where our lives still intersect, right? Holiday time, certain events, certain parties, or certain functions things of that nature. And so that's where our lives grow to. And there's no hard feelings. As men, I'm not going to say, well, Dave doesn't mess with me because he's going to church now and now he's into that. And I'm not into going to church on Sunday. I'd rather stay home, watch football. Whatever the case may be. I respect, and my friends respect each other. We respect each other in our chosen paths. But the one thing we can always look at one another and see is we're still on those tenets. We're still being decisive, determined in our life path, and we're selective with those who are around us. And one of the biggest words I didn't mention, which is just at the foundation of what it is to be an adult, is responsible. I will put that out there because I guess I had to just really say that. But being responsible is not necessarily a male thing. It is a human thing. A lot of these tenets are definitely human things, but these are things that need to be more prevalent in men. And so I always refer back to The Godfather. It's a movie, yes. It's a movie about a man and his sons. Some of the more important parts of the movie is when he's talking to his sons. And he says to Michael in the garden, Michael, women and children can be careless, not men. And so it's teaching you that, number one, you have to be responsible for those in your life, your woman, your children. You have to be responsible, even when they're not, because you are the one that has to clean the mess up. But the last person that can be making a lot of messes is you. A man does not have the option to be careless. A man has to always be thoughtful. And yes, that is a taxing job. And yes, it can be mentally exhausting. But that is the job. That is the responsibility of a man. A woman wants to be with a man for protection. Number one thing, protection and stability, right? The number one person she wants to be protected from is herself, her own bad choices. Because sometimes those choices can be unrealistic and emotional. And we're supposed to be grounded in emotional stableness and grounded in understanding certain choices and understanding where those choices lead to, and also not making bad choices on the whim. Being impulsive is not a good attribute in a responsible man. There is no responsible man that is impulsive. And yes, you can have men that have plenty of money and you'll think, well, they're paying their bills and, they have cars and they're doing with their things. So, yeah, but you can be impulsive. You can be irresponsible even with that. And I don't want to go into naming people, but we've seen celebrities in the news that have had power and money and influence, and they've messed it all up. Playing sex games or thinking they want to be a street thug or whatever the case may be, right? Or they're just underage girls, all kind of craziness, right? And so you have to be focused. That's that determination as a man. And so those are the positive lessons that I've taken out of the manosphere, the red pill community. For me, it's like really nothing new for me because I'm always immersed in the world of men, talking to men about their problems for years. For over 30 years, I've been talking to men about their relationships, their relationship issues. I've been discussing my own relationship issues. I see the common threads, right? And so, but what I think is happening now, and it's because it gets so much popularity and clicks and everybody wants to be liked. Everybody needs those likes, those clicks, those subscribers to boost their pockets, to boost their standing. But I'm not seeing so many people talk about solutions. We're talking too much about the problem to the point where I think we have turned into women. We turned ourselves into crying and being disgruntled over women and over voicing that disgruntledness. Because in the end, if you're any of those things that they preach, it's a short conversation. How many podcasts do we need to tell men they need to be focused on building themselves up to be the kind of man that someone wants to be with, or you can have the kind of life that you want to live? Why do we need years and years and years and years and podcasts after podcast after podcast after podcast to say the same thing? And then the only thing they can do is double down and go further into that, which dips into anger. And why anger? Because men do not deal with emotional heartache well. We tend to let that stain us. We tend to let that jade us, but the old cliche is, don't worry about losing a girl. They like buses. You miss one, another one's coming, right? And the same thing for ladies. However, men sometimes do not process that well, that kind of disappointment, that kind of hurt. And then you go online and hear someone else say that, and then, now you're having a pity party. But it's a male pity party. Don't look the same because we're talking, these women, fuck these bitches. We get that. Just the male bravado, right? But like in my establishment, we give guys about a good 2-3 minutes to talk about their wife, complain about what they're going through with their wife or whatever. And then we're like, yo, man, we don't want to hear that shit. You married your wife, the barbershop didn't. So you got to keep that to a low. Because even when a man starts to go into his pity bag, as men, we have to tell a man, tuck your shirt in. Straighten up your back. Hold your chin up. Tuck your shirt in. And let's go out and get it. What are we going to do? We got to keep moving. What are we going to do? I remember the day my ex-wife left. Right? Left me with the family, our daughter, my son that I had outside of her, but we were a family, and she left. And I called my accountant, because when she left, it was about tax time. So I had to tell him, we're going to do some things differently. We're not filing joint. We're going to file separate. I explained the situation to him. And he said, well, damn, Inky, what you going to do? What you going to do now? I said, well, I'm going to start cutting hair in about a good half an hour like I always do, start at 8 o'clock. I don't have time to sit and cry about this shit. I got to keep it pushing. I still got a mortgage to pay. I still have clients I need to take care of, and I have 2 mouths to feed, and I have to figure out how I'm going to do all this on my own. But I was already a single father with my son, raising him since he was 1 year old. And at this time, he might have been 12 or 13 or whatever. Yeah, he might have been 19 or 20, actually, if I think about it. Please forgive me. But I say all that to say, I was like, listen, I'll get over the emotions in a minute, but I need to focus in on how I'm going to make our life happen. Because just because one piece came out of the puzzle that I'm putting together, which is my life, doesn't mean my whole life falls apart. And I refuse, because she made this choice, to now look at all women like they ain't nothing. Or like the next woman I would make a choice in having would do me the same way. If I'm thinking like that, that means I'm not growing. If I selected another woman like the previous woman I had, I'm not growing. I'm showing that I'm attracted to something that's not good for me. And then that's something that I need to deal with. See, this is being a man. You have to look at yourself and deal with the things that can drive you into bad places. We got to stop blaming other people, because the common denominator in all this is yourself. You made a decision. I made a decision to be in that situation. I made a decision to ask her to marry me and to build a life. Now, things went left. She didn't stay focused on the plan, but my eyes never fell off the plan. And I certainly did not change my plan to appease her. Hell no. This is my life too. And I refuse. You're with me. I'm not with you. You're with me. As long as I am the protector and a provider, you're with me. And I'm not a dictator about that. I'm very nice and generous with my things, my life, my house, the things that I have. If I have it, we have it. That's the mentality that I have with my friends. We all think like that. So when I deal with someone who may be a little bit more on the selfish side, I just take note of that, and I know that they can't be a close friend. But I'm not going to go somewhere in a male environment and start bitching and complaining about women. I'm going to say my piece and keep it pushing. But, we're always correcting males' negative thoughts or condescending behavior or thoughts toward women. Always in here. And that's what guys love about coming to my establishment, is because we're standing on principle in here. And we're not going to get into this pity party over women. We're going to talk about how do you want to live your life, and how do you have the people in your life on your page? How do we accomplish that? I've come to understand most men just are not possessing those attributes. They don't know what they want to do with themselves. They probably flatlined at work, which means there's no upward mobility, or they're not seeking it because you have to do something more to get more, right? Go back to school, take some extra training that they just don't want to do. So a lot of guys tap out. And truthfully, a lot of guys are just lazy. A lot of guys are lazy. And so, but those dudes still want to be in relationships. But those dudes normally will be in a relationship with a couple of types of women. One, the overbearing one that wants to be in control and tell a man what to do and control a man's life. And that's, guys will go for it, right? And they'll complain about it, but they'll go for it because they need her to live off of. They need her direction. And she allows him to be the little boy that he's always been. Those guys look for enablers. And then you have the other kind of woman who's just desperate for a man, that's dealing with some low self-esteem or some trauma in her past, maybe through her father or something else. And she's attracted to foolishness. She's attracted to men that aren't determined. She likes feeling like she can save a man. She loves playing mommy to a man. And unfortunately, in today's times, with a lot of single-parent households, we've allowed our women to raise our young men by themselves. Now, I'm not saying allowed as in just us as men. I think not only us as men, but the men who created these laws that empower women to separate the homes, and not just separate the homes, to separate the father from the child. And I think this is why we have a lot of men that are not functioning on principle. I think that's why we have a lot of young ladies that are not functioning with no hierarchy, that are functioning with no principles, because there's no man there to instill it. You're only getting coddled. And actually, women are tougher on their daughters than they are on their boys. So essentially, you're raising strong women and soft men. But we know this. However, there's no course correction. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, what we've effectively have created is an environment of soft, jelly-back men. Yeah, and these guys are out at the construction sites and jackhammer and building houses, the whole nine. It has no, it does, what a man is doesn't, it doesn't have a look to it. The softness in a man has no look to it. I've had some hardcore dudes, some manly men crying over their wife who doesn't love them, who doesn't pay attention, who doesn't want to, feels like they can just live off of them. I had one guy who got married, and he was like, man, ever since I got married, she don't want to pay for anything. He was like, and it's kind of ridiculous, he's like, it's not that she doesn't want to pay for anything, but he's like, look, she has her own house. I have a house. We got married. I said, look, rent your house out. Her house is paid for. Rent your house out. She's renting her house, moves in with him. He said, yo, Inc. She's renting her house out, making money off of that. She's making over $100,000 a year. And he said, and she doesn't believe that she should pay for anything, not even food. He said, man, one day we're in the market, we're in line with the cart. I get a call from my job. I walk outside to take the call. He said 2 minutes later, she's coming out behind me. And he's like, well, once he gets the phone, he's like, damn, but where the food at? She said, I didn't bring any money. I didn't bring no credit cards with me. I didn't bring nothing with me. He like, damn. She couldn't even pay for the food. And they went to counseling. And after a few sessions, the counselor just looked at him and said, listen, man, she truly believes that she shouldn't pay for anything. Now, he didn't know that before he got married to her. It didn't seem like she was going to be like that, right? Hidden agenda. Now, he's jammed up in a marriage that he's trying to get out of. He's trying to get out of that marriage, but it's tough. It's tough to get out of something like that now. So, and they know that. And so he's a great dude. Big physical dude, work out all the time. Big buff guy, can break a man's neck. And my man was in here looking lost. Like, how did I get here? And sometimes you get there just being a nice-natured dude that doesn't have an agenda, who is looking to be in just a regular relationship, but he doesn't understand female nature, so he can't understand how he was being set up. Now, I'm not saying she doesn't have some love for him, but can you imagine if she's like that, are they having a great sex life? I didn't even ask him that. I'm sure she's not putting out, because if she was putting out like that, he wouldn't be complaining. Because he would eat it up like, well, at least she do bust me out every time she cooks food. She does cook dinner and she busts me out, keep the house tight. No, she's not doing any of that. She's just existing in there with him with no responsibilities. And he's allowed that because at some point, no one ever told him how he needed to be, told him how to be in a relationship with a woman, how a man needs to be in a relationship with a woman. So, back to my premise here. Yes, the red pill community, the manosphere, and all the things that's being said are, a lot of it, the principles of it are good. The hateful side toward women, not good. But what I would like to see is just more of us talking about how do we become healthier as individuals, and how do we put down our knives, swords, and guns and hate for the opposite sex and start working on more cohesiveness. There's too many, 80% of the content is only discussing the problems. And I understand why 80% only talks about the problems. Because the solutions The solutions are in self-development and spirituality, not religion. Spirituality, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your higher power, whatever you believe in, and understanding that relationships are mirror reflections of yourself. So, what is that relationship reflecting to you? If you say you hate this woman, you don't like this woman, there's a part of yourself that you don't like. And when you get to that point, you need to be out of that relationship because it's not something that works for you, or is bringing out. I've been in a let me speak for myself. I've been in relationships where I was like, damn, we're good friends. We're the best of friends, but we are horrible lovers. And the way she is in relationships would require me to change parts of myself into someone I wouldn't like. So I'm not allowing that. So I walked away from it. And we're still great friends, but I walked away from it because I'm not going to change myself and destroy myself. And I'm not going to destroy her in the process. I do not want to see her as my opposition and put her under attack. I'm not going to play that game. But I understand that there's people out there that want relationships because they want to fight. They want to fight it out. They want to be in that same old Venus versus Mars mood. And I just can't. I'm trying to grow, be healthy, have a good time, and have cohesiveness in my life. And anyone I deal with, friendship, love relationships, we all have to be on the same page or we're not on a page at all. And that's being decisive. And it doesn't take long to be decisive about someone that you would consider a lover, someone that you would consider protecting. Again, when I'm out with someone, a female, I am the protection. So I'm not going out with someone that I don't trust or just I just want to hit it. It's too crazy out here. We are in uncertain times right now. And in my opinion, it's not a time to be uncertain, to be indecisive, to not know what you want to do next. That is a recipe for disaster. That is the hamster on the wheel with no progression. And that's not living the life of a determined, focused man. But what do you guys think? Again, I love that we have social media and YouTube and things of that nature that we can all share our opinions and things of that nature. But I see a lot of it wreck chasers. They're just chasing stories. So everybody's going to comment on the same story. It's just, who do you like to hear? Whose opinion do you like to hear, right? So like, for example, Will and Jada. Everybody's going to do a podcast on Will and Jada. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Everybody's going to do a podcast. Well, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, her song was about. So it's just, to me, it's wreck chasers. Wreck chasers. People are just chasing the hot topics, but no one's really offering any solutions. They're just offering opinions. And that's okay to listen to someone whose opinion you value, but are you valuing just a wreck chaser? Or are they really digging down deep into that underneath the surface to really talk about the real symptoms of the problems, the real mental psychosis or lack of spirituality that these people have? Are we really talking about that? because most of the things that people are arguing about is superficial, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment. And until next time, peace.
So, you can reach me on YouTube and on all podcast platforms under Sir Inq. And I have a little change up, no longer on Facebook, but I'm still on Instagram under a new name, A_polite_savage. You still may be able to type in Sir Inq and still find me that way as well. I want to thank you guys for listening. Please hit me with your feedback, your comments. And until next time, peace.